Hey guys, today I'm reviewing for you this palette from Hourglass. This is a limited edition from Hourglass and they have released this before, but it's been released again this year just because I think this palette is extremely popular. However, is this going to work on me? Is this going to work on medium warm brown skin tones? That's what we're here to answer today. So what I'm going to show you today, I'm going to do this video a little bit different. I have got my makeup that I normally do on this side of my face, and what I'm going to do is show you these powders in action on this side of my face, and then we're going to compare to see, does this palette add any value to my makeup collection and to the way I apply my makeup. So let's do the demo first and then we'll have a chat. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and apply the first shade, which is this shade here, all over my face. So I'm just going to apply it on this side with Wayne Goss number 11. So I picked up about this much and I'm just going to run that across my face. Now I am filming in 4K, so if you want to see this in high definition, make sure you change the settings to 4K so you can really see what these powders look like right here. So I'm just going to do sweeping motion. I'm not buffing this powder in, I'm just going to apply it in sort of like a very downward smooth strokes. I'm going to take some more and apply that here. It would be really interesting to see if you guys can notice any difference on my skin with these powders. So now I'm going to go on my forehead. Just know that on this side of my face, the only thing I've got is my foundation, my concealer. I've got a little bit of the Charlotte Tilbury powder right here where I have large pores, and that's it. So taking that and sweeping that across the forehead. And this is how this powder looks like. I'm going to take a little bit more and go ahead and add that to my skin. I'm going to take a little bit and add it to my chin right here as well. So this here is this first shade. Okay, now I'm going to dip into this bronzer shade and I'm just going to apply that as a bronzer. I'm using Shikahodo T4. And just dipping my brush into this bronzer here and just going to buff this in. So I'm using a bit more of a denser brush because this bronzer isn't very pigmented, so you can easily just go and pick up a lot of product and it's not going to deposit too much product on the skin. So I actually really like the bronzer. The bronzer is really pretty, but I do end up applying quite a bit just because it doesn't have a lot of pigment. This is what the bronzer looks like. This is my Ilia bronzer and this is the Hourglass bronzer. Try and build up just a little bit more, but I'm happy with how it looks at the moment. So that's the bronzer there. And then I'm going to apply this on my forehead. Here. So as you can see, between the Ilia bronzer right here and then the Hourglass bronzer, I've added quite a lot, but you can't really see that much color. It's there, but it's not as pigmented, of course. So that's the bronzer application. Now I'm going to go into the blush. For the blush, I'm going to use NARS. I forgotten the name of this brush. It's a beautiful brush from NARS. It's called NARS Yakio, something like that. I'll pop it onto the screen. It's number 27. This is a beautiful blush brush for those of you that have blushes that are really light, so not as pigmented blushes. This picks up just the right amount. So this blush isn't very pigmented, so I'm just going to use this brush to pick it up. And I've got about this much on my brush. I'm going to apply that. I'll take in some more. So I am happy with how much blush I've got here. So this is what the blush color looks like. It is a berry shade. And lastly, we are going to go into this highlighter right here. And I'm using Wayne Goss brush number 2. Love my Wayne Goss brushes. I do believe that these blue squirrel brushes aren't in stock yet, but I'm sure they'll come back in stock. Okay, so I'm just gonna pick up a little bit. So I just want to show you how much I picked up. Just a little bit. This highlighter can be quite intense, so I prefer to go in with a small amount first and then build up if needed. And then I'm just going to lay it down. Now, when I lay this down, I don't know if you can see that, it does have sparkles. It doesn't lay down as smoothly as some of my other highlighters, like the NARS highlighters or the Dior. So for this one, I much prefer to buff it into the skin. And that's when this looks pretty. If I was to just leave it like this, you will see this layer just sit on top. And that doesn't look pretty, so you want to make sure that you buff it into the skin. And that looks really nice. So I'm going to go ahead and take a little bit more and buff it in. I'm going to take some and apply it on my temple, and again I'm going to do the same and buff it in. And that there is the highlighter. Okay, so coming in close, on this side of my face is how I would normally do my makeup, and I have got the Charlotte Tilbury Flawless Filter under my foundation. After that, I've got my matte foundation, which is the Dior Forever foundation. I've got the Charlotte Tilbury powder right here where my pores are. I've got the Ilia bronzer, this beautiful mineralized blush from MAC. This is called Conjure Up. This might not be available anymore, I'm not too sure, but it matched the color of the Hourglass, so I ended up using this one. And for my highlighter, I've used NARS Faute de France, and that's what I've got on this side of my face. So no Hourglass powders on this side. And just for comparison, on this side of my face, all I've got is just my foundation. I haven't used Charlotte Tilbury. Just the foundation, a little bit of that powder here from Charlotte Tilbury, and then just these Hourglass powders. So I've used all 4 on this side of my face. Can you guys notice any difference between the side without the powders and then the side with the powders? I'm going to come in a little bit closer. So this is coming in very close and with the powders. Without the powders. So what did you guys think? Hit pause on my video right now and leave a comment below and let me know, what are your thoughts? Did you see a difference? And if you did you like it? Because what I really wanted to do with this video is actually show you how this product works on my skin before I influence you with my opinion. So now that you've left that comment telling me exactly what you thought about these powders on my skin tone, and I hope you watched it in 4K. Now let's have a chat. My first experience with Hourglass powders were when I purchased this palette, and you guys would be familiar with this. This is kind of, I think, what put Hourglass on the map. These beautiful powders. Now, I was extremely disappointed with this palette and I have barely used it. Actually, I probably haven't used it because these colors don't work on me. So these 2 shades, for example, are too cool tone, and on my warm brown skin, they just make me look ashy. so they don't work, and I don't like using them. And then this last shade here, this works for me, but really only as a bronzer topper or as a diffused highlighter for the summer when I'm tan. And honestly, I didn't reach for this. It really wasn't that impressive. And so this palette was probably one of the biggest disappointments for me when it comes to the makeup world, because this has such a cult following and none of these shades worked for my skin tone. Unfortunately, the other shades in the collection for the ambient lighting powders, you've got Luminous Light, which has that warm undertone. It's too light for me. I can't wear that powder. So none of these ambient lighting powders have ever worked for me in the past. Initially, when Hourglass launched with this palette, I didn't purchase it because I was really heartbroken over this one and I didn't even want to give it a go. This year, however, because I have a YouTube channel, I decided to buy this palette and really show you whether this palette would work on you if you're close to my skin tone. Now, I'm happy to say that it does. So this shade right here is so far the only shade in the ambient lighting powders that works for my skin tone. My skin is still pretty borderline with this shade because it's a little bit light for my skin, but because these are so sheer, it still works for me. It doesn't make me look ashy because it has that warm undertone. It's just too bad that this shade doesn't exist part of the permanent collection, because I think this would be a great option probably for a lot of the medium brown skin tones. This is not going to work for deeper skin tones though. Then we've got the bronzer shade, and I really like this bronzer. A lot of the Hourglass bronzers are sheer, they don't have a lot of pigment to them, but this one I do think is one of the better ones. So I do like wearing this one. It has the slightly warm undertone. It doesn't look muddy on me, and it's not too shimmery either. It actually looks quite nice on the skin. Then we've got the blush. The blush is beautiful. However, it is a little bit dusky, so it does have those cool tones in this blush. Again, it doesn't look bad at all. It's still quite pretty on the cheek. I just wish that they had stayed with the warm tones. Bronzer has a warm tone, the ambient lighting powder has a warm tone, and I wish they had a warm tones in this blush as well. And it was a bit of a warmer pink than more of a dusky pink. But that's okay, it still actually looks quite nice. So I'm okay with that. Then we've got the highlighter. This is really pretty. The way you apply it is really what makes the difference with this highlighter. This one, you've really got to buff into the skin and then it looks beautiful. It does have a little bit of a sparkle finish. So you're not going to see a sparkle-free highlighter. It does have shimmer and that can look obvious on the skin, but it's extremely fine. It doesn't look bad at all. It actually looks very, very pretty. So I have really enjoyed using this highlighter. It also is a very nice shade. It's like a champagne gold, but definitely more on the champagne side, and it's beautiful. I have really enjoyed wearing this. So overall, I think this palette is pretty good. Now, do you really need it? Well, you tell me. You saw both sides of my face. On one side, I had applied my makeup like I normally would, and the other side, I've just used these powders. Now, personally, I see a very small difference. The only thing I see is that these lighting powders do add a little bit of a smoothness. So they do add a little bit of that blurring effect to the skin. Again, it's really not huge. It's a very subtle difference. If you have never purchased Hourglass powders before, probably because you haven't been able to find the right shade, this is a very good option if you want to give these powders a try. And I think really for brown skin tones, this is it. If you're close to my skin tone, I don't think you can do better than this if you're looking for shades that are going to work on you. None of the other powders work on me. This is it. If you're deeper than me, I honestly wouldn't bother with this because you won't be able to use this. It's not really going to look good on you unless you use it as a highlighter, but it doesn't have any shimmer or glow. So I think that would defeat the purpose. And of course, the bronzer wouldn't show up as much on you. And yeah, if you're a few shades deeper than me, I just don't see how this will look good on you, and I don't think it will be worth the money for you. If you're around my skin tone or lighter, I think then you can definitely enjoy this palette. And I know I'll be getting way more use out of this palette than I ever did with the original. So overall, I think this is a really nice palette for medium brown skin tones, but nothing so amazing that you have to run out and get it. I really hope you found this review valuable. If you did, make sure to hit that like button, and I will see you guys in my next video. See ya!